Now listen to me carefully, because what I'm about to say might change the way you move forever. See, a man doesn't call or text because you beg him to. He doesn't reach out because you double message him. And he definitely doesn't chase you because you keep reminding him you're still there. A man calls and texts when he feels something shifting, when he feels space, when he feels the possibility of losing access to you. You want him to hit that phone? You want that, hey, what you doing, text out of nowhere? Then you've got to understand one thing. Attention is power, and the person who controls their attention controls the dynamic. Attention is power. In every relationship, romantic or otherwise, the person who controls their attention controls the dynamic. That doesn't mean controlling the other person. It means controlling yourself. It means understanding that where your focus goes, your energy flows. And whoever receives the majority of that energy begins to set the tone. If you are constantly giving your attention away, constantly checking your phone, constantly wondering why he hasn't replied, you are slowly handing over your emotional power without even realizing it. And the moment you do that, the balance shifts. When you overgive, you don't just give affection, you give reassurance, validation, priority, and access. You make yourself available at all hours. You respond instantly. You adjust your schedule. You put your needs on pause. You think that by showing consistency and devotion, you're proving your value. But here's the truth. Value is not proven by how much you give. Value is recognized by how much is felt when you're not there. When your attention becomes automatic, it stops feeling special. What is always available rarely feels urgent. Think about it this way. When someone knows they can reach you anytime, that you will always reply within seconds, that you are emotionally on standby, there is no effort required. And when there is no effort required, there is no tension, no anticipation, no chase. Human nature responds to investment. People appreciate what they work for. If you are doing all the emotional labor, initiating conversations, planning meetings, keeping the spark alive, you are unintentionally teaching him that he doesn't have to. Controlling your attention means being intentional with it. It means asking yourself, does this deserve my energy? Instead of reacting immediately to every message, you pause. Instead of rearranging your life for last-minute plans, you consider whether it aligns with your priorities. Instead of over-explaining your feelings repeatedly, you express yourself once with clarity and then step back. That pause is powerful. That space is powerful because it shifts the energy from pursuit to reflection. When you stop overgiving, something interesting happens. You begin to notice how much mental space you were dedicating to someone else. You realize how often you were checking for validation instead of creating your own. And when you redirect that attention back to yourself, your goals, your growth, your health, your peace, your entire presence changes. You become less anxious, less reactive, more grounded. And that grounded energy is magnetic. Valuing your time means understanding that your day is not empty space waiting to be filled by someone else's convenience. Your time is limited. Your energy is limited. Every text you overanalyze, every call you wait for, every scenario you replay in your head, that is energy spent. When you start protecting it, people feel it. You respond when it's convenient for you. You engage when it feels mutual. You don't chase clarity from someone who is comfortable giving confusion. And here's the key. This is not about playing games. It's not about pretending you don't care. It's about caring about yourself first. When your life is full, when your schedule reflects your ambitions, when your happiness is not dependent on a notification sound, you naturally become less available in a desperate way and more available in a confident way. There's a difference. Desperation says, Please choose me. Confidence says, I choose myself first. The person who controls their attention controls the emotional rhythm. If you are constantly reacting, you are following. If you are intentional, you are leading. When you stop flooding someone with attention, you give them the opportunity to step forward. If they value you, they will. If they don't, their silence reveals the truth. Either way, you win because you are no longer exhausting yourself trying to force reciprocity. Stop overgiving. Stop thinking that more effort will automatically produce more love. Sometimes less access produces more appreciation. Start valuing your time like it's precious, because it is. Start valuing your energy like it's currency, because it is. When you treat your attention as something earned instead of something freely poured out, the entire dynamic shifts. And the moment that shift happens, people begin to respond differently, not because you changed who you are, but because you finally understood your worth. Silence creates curiosity in a way that constant communication never can. When you pull back slightly and begin focusing on yourself, instead of centering your world around him, something subtle but powerful happens. The energy shifts, the rhythm changes, the predictability disappears. And when predictability disappears, curiosity is born. Human nature is wired to notice change. When someone who was always available suddenly becomes a little less accessible, not cold, not rude, just busy and fulfilled, that difference is felt immediately. When you are constantly texting first, constantly checking in, constantly filling every quiet moment with conversation, there is no space for him to think about you. You are always present, always responding, always initiating. But when you create silence, not dramatic silence, not punishment, just space, you allow room for reflection. In that space, his mind starts asking questions. What is she doing? Why hasn't she texted? Is she okay? Is she losing interest? Curiosity doesn't need drama. It only needs uncertainty. Pulling back slightly does not mean playing manipulative games. It means redirecting your attention to your own life. It means if you're busy, you stay busy. If you're working on your goals, you stay focused. If you're enjoying time with friends or family, you stay present instead of interrupting the moment to check your phone every 5 minutes. When your life becomes full and you stop making him the center of your emotional universe, you naturally create mystery. And mystery is magnetic. When someone is unsure about where they stand, they lean in, not because you force them, but because the human mind wants clarity. It wants reassurance. It wants to understand shifts in patterns. If you were always immediate with replies, and suddenly you respond hours later because you were genuinely occupied, that change registers. If you used to initiate every conversation, and now you wait to see if he will, that space speaks. Silence becomes a mirror, reflecting his level of interest back to him. Curiosity is powerful because it activates pursuit. When everything is handed to someone without effort, there's no need to act. But when there is a slight gap, when he feels your attention is no longer guaranteed, he becomes more alert. He begins to miss the consistency you once provided. He begins to replay your conversations. He notices your absence in moments he took for granted, and that absence carries weight. Silence also changes you. It strengthens your emotional independence. Instead of reacting to every notification or feeling anxious about delayed replies, you build patience, you build control, you build confidence in knowing that your worth is not determined by someone's speed of response. That internal shift radiates outward. You become calmer, more centered, less desperate for validation. And that calm confidence is attractive in ways that constant availability never is. When you focus on yourself, your growth, your goals, your happiness, You begin to glow differently. You post less for attention and more from authenticity. You talk less about what he's doing and more about what you're building. You move with purpose instead of anticipation. And when he sees that your world doesn't pause for him, he feels the shift, not because you told him, but because energy always communicates. Missing someone is often born in silence. When there is always noise, texts, calls, updates, there's no opportunity to feel absence. But absence is what creates appreciation. When he starts wondering what you're thinking, who you're with, what you're focused on, his emotional investment increases. Curiosity turns into checking your social media. Checking turns into texting. Texting turns into calling. Action follows intrigue. Silence gives him the chance to step forward. If he values you, he will fill the space. If he doesn't, the silence reveals that too. Either way, you gain clarity without chasing it. That is the true power of pulling back slightly. You're not withdrawing love. You're withdrawing overextension. You're not disappearing. You're rebalancing. And here's the deeper truth. When you stop centering your life around someone else's attention, you start becoming more interesting. A woman with her own focus, her own passions, her own priorities is unpredictable in the best way. She is not waiting, she is living. And when a man senses that he is not the only source of excitement or fulfillment in your life, he feels the need to secure his place in it. Curiosity drives action because uncertainty creates desire. When he is no longer completely certain of your availability, he becomes more certain of his interest. NT, hat interest, pushes him to reach out, to reestablish closeness. All because you allowed silence to do what words never could. Sometimes the loudest move you can make is saying nothing at all. Self-respect over chasing is a mindset shift that changes everything. It's not about pretending you don't care. It's not about acting cold or distant to manipulate someone's emotions. It's about understanding your worth so deeply that you refuse to run after anyone who isn't matching your effort. Chasing comes from fear. Fear of losing them. Fear of being alone. Fear that if you don't hold everything together, it will fall apart. Self-respect comes from confidence. Confidence that what is meant for you will meet you halfway, and what doesn't will reveal itself without you exhausting your soul. When you chase, you overextend. You send the extra text, you make the extra call. You explain yourself again and again, hoping to be understood. You lower your standards just to keep the connection alive. And in the process, you slowly teach someone that your presence is guaranteed, no matter how little they invest. The more you pursue, the less they feel the need to. The more you prove your loyalty, the less they feel pressure to prove theirs. It becomes unbalanced, and anything unbalanced eventually becomes draining. Self-respect changes that dynamic completely. When you prioritize your worth, you start asking different questions. Instead of how can I make him stay, you ask, is he showing up the way I deserve? Instead of what did I do wrong, you ask, is this effort mutual? You stop trying to convince someone to choose you. You start observing whether they naturally do. That shift alone protects your energy. Stopping the chase does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop overcompensating. You communicate clearly once. You express interest openly, but you don't beg for consistency. You don't force attention. You don't compete for space in someone's life. If someone wants to talk to you, they will. If they want to see you, they will make time. And if they don't, your silence becomes your answer. Self-respect allows you to accept that answer without chasing closure. There is something incredibly attractive about someone who knows their value. When you stop chasing, your energy becomes calmer. You are no longer anxious about every delayed response. You are no longer trying to decode mixed signals. You move with steadiness instead of urgency. That steadiness communicates strength, and strength commands respect. Chasing often lowers perceived value because it signals imbalance. When one person is always initiating, always planning, always pushing the relationship forward, it creates subconscious pressure. The other person feels less urgency because they know the connection is being maintained for them. But when you step back and allow space, the responsibility shifts. They either rise to meet the energy or they fall away. Either outcome protects your dignity. Prioritizing your worth also means maintaining your standards even when emotions are involved. It means you don't accept half-hearted effort just because you're attached. You don't tolerate inconsistency just because you see potential. You understand that potential without action is just imagination. Self-respect reminds you that love should feel reciprocal, not one-sided. When you stop chasing, you begin attracting differently. Your time becomes valuable because you are selective. Be with it. Your attention becomes meaningful because it is not freely poured out. Your presence feels special because it is not forced. People sense when access to you is a privilege rather than a guarantee. That subtle shift changes how they treat you. And here's the powerful part. When you release the need to chase, you regain control over your emotional state. You are no longer riding the roller coaster of someone else's effort. Your happiness is no longer dependent on their consistency. You become grounded, centered, secure within yourself. That inner security is what naturally increases your value. Sometimes the hardest thing to do is nothing, to not send the follow-up text, to not ask why they're distant, to not fight for attention. But in that restraint, you build self-trust. You show yourself that you will not abandon your standards for temporary reassurance. And that self-trust strengthens your confidence. Value is not created by proving yourself over and over. It is recognized when you carry yourself with assurance. When you stop chasing, you send a silent message. I am worthy of mutual effort. You don't need to announce it. Your actions reflect it. Your boundaries reflect it. The right person will not require pursuit. They will require participation. And when you operate from self-respect instead of fear, you naturally filter out those who expect you to chase. You create space for someone who steps forward willingly. When you stop chasing, you don't lose power. You reclaim it. And in that reclamation, your value rises without you saying a word. Elevation attracts action in a way that pressure never can. When you glow up, grow up, and level up quietly, you shift the entire atmosphere around you. You're no longer trying to convince someone to see your value. You're embodying it. And when someone senses that growth happening without their permission, without their control, without their constant access, something awakens inside them. The possibility of losing you becomes real. And when loss feels real, action follows. Glowing up is more than changing your appearance. Yes, taking care of yourself physically matters. Dressing better, feeling healthier, carrying yourself with confidence, those things radiate. But the real glow up is internal. It's emotional stability. It's self-discipline. It's peace. It's no longer reacting impulsively to every mood shift or delayed message. When your energy becomes calm and centered, instead of anxious and chasing, people feel that difference instantly. You stop seeking validation and start generating it from within. That glow cannot be faked. Growing up is about maturity. It's about handling situations with grace instead of drama. It's choosing silence over unnecessary arguments. It's no longer posting for attention or trying to provoke jealousy. It's understanding that your worth doesn't decrease because someone fails to recognize it. When you grow emotionally, you stop trying to control mess. You focus on controlling yourself. That kind of growth is powerful because it removes desperation from your energy. Leveling up quietly is where the real shift happens. You don't announce every move. You don't broadcast every success. You don't update him on every improvement you're making. You just evolve. You invest in your career. You build your body. You strengthen your mindset. You expand your social circle. You develop new skills. And you do it without seeking applause. Quiet progress is intimidating in the best way because it creates mystery. When someone sees you changing but doesn't fully know how or why, their curiosity intensifies. When you elevate, access to you changes. You become busier, more focused, less emotionally available for inconsistency. You respond when it suits you. You prioritize your responsibilities. You no longer drop everything for attention. That subtle withdrawal of guaranteed access creates a shift in perception. Suddenly, you're not the constant, you're the opportunity. And here's what happens psychologically. When someone senses that your world is expanding beyond them, they feel the risk of being left behind. Not because you threatened to leave, not because you played games, but because growth naturally creates distance from anything that isn't aligned. If he has been complacent, inconsistent, or slow to step up, your elevation forces a decision. He either rises to meet you or he risks losing proximity to you. The fear of loss is a stronger motivator than the comfort of presence. When you were always there, always available, always initiating, he felt secure. There was no urgency, no pressure to act. But when your time becomes limited and your attention becomes earned, the stakes rise. He begins to notice what he might miss: your laughter, your support, your energy, your presence. And once he imagines life without that consistent access, something shifts inside him. Elevation also changes how you respond to his actions. You are no longer impressed by minimal effort. A random late-night text doesn't excite you the way it used to. You've grown beyond crumbs. And when he senses that the same tactics no longer work, he understands that he must increase his effort to maintain connection. Growth demands growth. What makes this powerful is that it's authentic. You're not elevating to trigger him. You're elevating because you refuse to stay stagnant. You're building a life that excites you regardless of who stays or leaves. And that independence is magnetic. A person who is building, evolving, and thriving without needing constant reassurance becomes rare. And rare things are valued. When he sees you glowing without asking for his validation, when he notices you're progressing without reporting to him, when he feels that your life is moving forward with or without him, that's when reality hits. You are not waiting, you are becoming, and becoming creates urgency. The possibility of losing you becomes more real than ever before. Not because you threaten to disappear, but because you are ascending, and when someone realizes they could lose access to someone who is rising, they often reach out to secure their place before it's too late. Elevation attracts action because growth commands respect. When you evolve quietly, confidently, and consistently, you don't have to chase anyone. Your progress speaks. Your peace speaks. Your power speaks. And when your power speaks loud enough, he listens. Then he reaches. At the end of the day, this was never about making him call or forcing him to text. It was about you stepping into your power. Attention is power. And when you stop giving it away so freely, the dynamic shifts. Silence creates curiosity. And in that space, he begins to feel what constant NT access once hid. Self-respect replaces chasing. And when you refuse to beg for effort, your value rises naturally. Elevation changes everything. When you glow up, grow up, and level up quietly, the possibility of losing you becomes real. The truth is simple. When you focus on yourself instead of forcing connection, you become magnetic. You stop proving and start embodying. And when a man senses strength, confidence, and independence, he responds, not because you demanded it, but because he feels it. So don't chase, don't overextend. Elevate and watch how quickly the energy shifts back in your favor.